right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today's session on body-worn camera resources. How can we help? As a reminder, the points of view or opinions expressed by those presenting throughout this national meeting do not necessarily represent the official position or policies of the U.S. Department of Justice. If you experience any technical issues during this session, please reach out to us on the chat function or via email at bwctta@cna.org. With that, we're going to go ahead and begin our session on body-worn camera resources and how we can help you. My name is Carrie Shelton. As I mentioned, I'm the body-worn camera training and technical assistance project manager. I'm also joined today by Bridget Bryson, who is our resource coordinator for all things body-worn camera. So she is responsible for maintaining all of the resources, being aware of them, communicating them to sites and to our team, and helping distribute them to the audience and to all the sites and to even a greater audience than just those that have received a body-worn camera policy and implementation program grant. So that's one of the very first things I want to talk about during this session, is that everything that we talk about here in this agenda and everything that we're going to talk about today is available to body-worn camera policy and implementation program grantees. In addition, the way the Bureau of Justice Assistance set up the program, it allows for us to support agencies that have not received a grant. So even though you haven't received funding, if you want any of this type of assistance, you can still ask for it and we can still help you with it. So you can ask for that assistance either by emailing body-worn camera tta@cna.org, or you can request it on our website, which Bridget will take you through kind of toward the end of the presentation. Okay, so the first type of assistance we're going to talk about today is on-site or remote subject matter expert assistance. So for those of you that are part of the body-worn camera and policy and implementation program, you will be assigned a body-worn camera TTA lead and an analyst. Now those TTA leads are all subject matter experts. They all have experience and pretty considerable experience implementing body-worn cameras at various agencies across the nation. We also have subject matter experts that are researchers, body-worn camera researchers. We have subject matter experts that focus on the downstream impacts, so such as like for the prosecutors, for the defense attorneys, and how body-worn cameras may impact them. We also have technology experts. So we have just a very large group and very seasoned group of experts that are available to assist your agencies in any way. And again, if you're a body-worn camera site, you will be paired with one of these subject matter experts to help you and be with you throughout the whole program. Now, even if you're paired with one individual subject matter expert as a TTA lead, that is not to say that you can't access the others. You absolutely can access the other subject matter experts, either through on-site or remote assistance. So right now we're not doing a ton of on-site stuff due to COVID, but hopefully we will be able to resume that, sometime in 2021. But we can certainly do, remote assistance through email exchanges, through conferences, through these virtual platforms that we're using, for this meeting. To request assistance, you can either talk to your TTA lead, talk to your analyst. You can go to our website and you'll see the little Ask a BWC Expert on our website. And Bridget's going to walk us through the website in a little bit so you can see exactly how to access each of these. But so basically, don't hesitate to ask for assistance in a specific area. A lot of the times your TTA lead may just suggest it. And so they may say, oh, you're having an issue with this, or you have a question about this. Why don't I bring in my colleague and we can have a conversation about it. So it can be very informal, such as that, where we bring another subject matter expert just to participate in a phone call with you. Or if you want something more intensive, we have supported agencies with kind of longer term and a longer duration support from a subject matter expert. So for example, we had a site that was interested in body-worn camera research, and we set them up with one of our researchers who helped them design their own research program within their police agency. For some examples of the quicker exchanges with subject matter experts, we've had somebody just come and talk to a site about policy compliance. and how to manage that, how to develop their policy. Had an agency that wanted to talk about unions, so we brought in someone that has considerable experience with unions in the New York, New Jersey area. So we have all of our subject matter experts and our TTA leads listed on our website, including their bios. So feel free to look through there and see if any of those subject matter experts might be somebody you want to talk to about, something of interest to you and your agency related to your body-worn camera program. Go to the next slide, Bridget. All right, so the Speakers Bureau. So this is kind of a public version of our subject matter experts. So the Speakers Bureau connects SMEs with agencies that want to do some sort of event that involves state, local, tribes. It can involve your city councils. It might involve your community. Basically, it's a little bit more formal engagement where you have experts on body-worn cameras speak at your event. So for example, we've had a couple of colleges that were interested in the implementation of body-worn cameras within a college setting. We had a couple communities that were having trouble, or I would say trouble, they just wanted to have researchers and experts come in and talk to them about body-worn cameras and why their city and why their agency might want to implement body-worn cameras. And so we put together a Speakers Bureau for that. So there's a couple, different ways that you can use the Speakers Bureau. And you can access that, again, through our website, again, also through your TTA leads, or through bwctta@cna.org. So there's lots of ways to request these resources. Don't feel like you have to find the exact right one. Find a venue to us, email us, text us, Twitter us, whatever however you can contact us, you can feel free to ask for these types of resources. You go to the next slide, please, Bridget. Okay, so peer-to-peer exchanges. So a lot of the times, we make these TTA groups, which consist of a TTA lead and an analyst and sites based on kind of some similarities. So each TTA lead will have, each year probably about 10 to 15 sites that they are helping through the body-worn camera policy and implementation program process as they, work to deploy or expand their body-worn cameras. And when they do that, we actually kind of pair them either by a region. So we've got a couple that are like Northeast, Southeast, Southwest. So you can kind of have some subject matter experts that learn and that have worked with agencies in those areas so they can bring some local knowledge and expertise to the sites. But then we also can have, we also make the groups based on sometimes agency size or whether or not they are an expansion program or a new program. So in doing so, all of our team and our leads and our analysts and our senior advisors get to know all of these other sites and what they're good at and how they might be able to help each other. So, and in doing so, kind of as you're hearing with this national conference, we're hearing from sites that have already implemented their cameras, sharing their lessons learned and whatnot throughout this conference. Any site that you hear from today is available to you to discuss further, some part of their program that, you may be interested in how they did this or how they did that, to talk about what might be relevant for your agency. So if you want to talk to another agency within your region, if you want to talk to another agency that is using your same vendor, we do stay vendor agnostic from the TTA team in terms of we don't make recommendations about vendors. We don't tell you whether a vendor is good or not. We certainly don't even do research into that area. We are here to support the program and the implementation process. We are aware of some vendors' technological capabilities. So if you have a technology question, we can certainly help you answer those. But sometimes, you want to just vet vendors and you want to talk to people that have used a certain vendor. So we can certainly set you up with another agency using that vendor. We've had a couple peer exchanges that were really informative associated with vendors. We had an agency that was deploying body-worn camera and an in-car camera solution, and they were having some trouble getting the body-worn camera to trigger the in-car camera. And we had another agency that we knew that had the exact same product that had worked out any kinks, that was using it, you know, very, very well, and they were happy with the result. So we paired those two agencies and kind of let them let their IT departments, you know, hash out the details and the settings and whatnot to get their systems working and talking. In another example, we had an agency that was interested in how much bandwidth it would require to download body-worn camera video to a specific vendor system. And so we set them up with another agency that had done a lot of research into that and had implemented their program for about 6 months. So they had some real statistics on bandwidth requirements. So those are some different types of peer exchanges that you could have. Another area that might be of interest would be like your state laws and how that impacts your body-worn camera program, et cetera. So similar to the subject matter expert assistance, these peer exchanges can be like very quick. They can be a 1-hour phone call, or they can be more extensive. For example, we recently sent, before the pandemic, we sent one of our 2019 sites down to New Orleans Police Department to learn about New Orleans body-worn camera compliance review and auditing process. They have New Orleans has a very extensive process for reviewing and auditing body-worn cameras, a good deal due to their consent decree, which is ended now. So they've kind of found a good balance between making sure, you know, officers are using the body-worn cameras appropriately and that they are tracking their use and making adjustments to their program as necessary based on the results of the reviews and audits. So you should have all seen a little poll pop up on your screen that asks, would you be interested in a peer exchange with another body-worn camera site via phone call, teleconference, in person, etc. So if you think you might be interested in that, please go ahead and respond appropriately to the poll, and let's see what folks on the phone have to say about that. All right, so seeing a good number not at this time. Hopefully that's an indication of the fact that you're sitting in the national meeting and learning a lot and may not know, you know, exactly what you might want to peer exchange to cover, or what you might want to talk to another agency about. We've got a couple, yes phone call, yes video conference. So that's excellent. Please feel free to chat to us right now what you're interested in, or again, all the other means that we talked about that you can ask for that assistance. Talk to your TTA lead, email bwctta@cna.org, go to our website and ask for assistance. You know, talk to your analyst if you have one. And again, this is not only available to grantees, it's available to anyone implementing a body-worn camera program. All right, perfect, policy review. So as I mentioned at the beginning, policy review is one of the major areas that we focus on with agencies as they go through the policy and implementation program process. So, and some of you may have participated in the policy review session, so I don't want to belabor this topic, but I do want to note that, you know, we've got through kind of years of research and years of experience helping, you know, hundreds of sites develop body-worn camera policies. We kind of have some set questions that are kind of mandatory things that we recommend agencies absolutely include in their body-worn camera policy. And then we have some others that we recommend agencies consider including in their policy. And that is all captured in our scorecard, which is available at the link shown here on our website. For agencies that have already had body-worn cameras for a while and have had a body-worn camera policy in place for a while, if you're a grantee, you are also able to do a certification that just says, yes, we have these, you know, 13 mandatory things covered in our policy. Either way, the intent of this policy review is not to say, oh, you should do X or Y when you use your body-worn cameras, but rather it assesses the comprehensiveness of an agency's policy. So when you look at comprehensiveness, it says, you know, did you tell officers whether or not, you know, they need to tell a citizen that their body-worn camera, that they're recording? So it's not that saying, oh, you have to tell a citizen or you shouldn't tell a citizen, but it's telling you, we recommend you your agency state your policy, your approach to each of these 13 items so that your agency, the public, your officers know how they should use their body-worn cameras. So we have another poll right here, and it's asking how many of you has your agency's body-worn camera policy been approved yet by the Bureau of Justice Assistance? And so again, this is more about, has the process been reviewed? Have you covered those mandatory items? Are there any issues that we see within the policy that we recommend you address before you finalize it? So if you could please all go ahead and answer that. I'll give it a minute for everybody to respond. A lot of the times this kind of policy review support is one of the areas that agencies that are not grantees do like assistance with. And so we can certainly review your policies and help you walk through them, even if you're not a grantee. So if you do, for example, if you know a partner agency, somebody in your area that's working on a body-worn camera policy, and you appreciated the support of the TTA team, it looks like 76% of those of you participating have already gone through this review process. So you're very familiar with it, have your policy approved, and about 21% have not. So we will continue to work with those of you that have not had your policy reviewed and approved yet. And again, please, communicate this to your neighboring agencies if you know of anyone working on a body-worn camera policy that would like this type of assistance. Okay, next slide. All right, and with that, I'm actually going to pass it off to my colleague, Bridget Bryson, who manages our webinars and all of our resources as the resource coordinator, to talk to you all about these other resources available through the program. Bridget?
Thank you, Carrie. So I'm going to go through mine a little quick because I want to spend most of the time going through the website so I can actually show you where all of this is that Carrie just mentioned and what I'm about to. So first I'll talk about webinars, and all of our previous webinars that we have disseminated or done since the inception of the program is stored on our website. We currently have about 40 of them, and we do these every 2 months. And so we're consistently building, a great catalog of webinars that you can view. And it's good for your officers to also view those, not just leadership level, because it really does give them helpful tips. And so what we do is we try to focus on a variety of topics and speakers. We don't like to have the same people doing it every time to give you a different perspective. And we like to highlight our best practices and challenges to work through, while also giving you things that you should be considering or that we have found that would be helpful for you to consider. And I wanted to pull some examples of past webinars that we have had to kind of give you an idea of different topics we have covered. So a couple are body-worn cameras in the medical field and how programs can work within HIPAA regulations. This was one of our most popular webinars that we've ever done. People really received it very well and thought it gave them a lot of fruitful information that has helped them in their body-worn camera program. We also have had one on addressing officer body-worn camera concerns and acceptance, and then also looking at engaging prosecutors during body-worn camera planning, implementation, and beyond. And so those are just a few of the ones that you can find on the website, but there is plenty more, which I'll show you here in just a little bit. And just kind of an update, we did just hold our July webinar that focused on survey results from Arizona State University that Dr. Mike White led. And this was on the use of body-worn cameras in public protest. And so that one focused on large agencies, and we do have one coming up in September that will focus on smaller agencies. So our podcast, we have kind of rebranded in the last year. We do have a brand new series called the LE Tech Talk series, but you can find all of our older podcasts on the BJA BWC toolkit, which I will show you. But you can find our 17 podcasts in our new series on our website. And again, we try to keep these different and have a variety of topics and speakers to highlight those best practices and challenges and things to consider. And topics for these are very similar to our webinars. We try to keep them different. And so I pulled a couple for you today. One of our recent ones was on body-worn cameras and live streaming. We've also talked about school resource officers and then using body-worn cameras in specialty units, and also overcoming technological issues of body-worn camera implementation. And so you can check those out on the website. And if you can't find the ones you want on the website, you can find them on the toolkit. But our most recent podcast was a compilation of our new body-worn camera TTA leads. And so I'll show you how you can find their individual podcasts, but also find our series on them that we are compiling together. So for in-view commentaries, these are written by body-worn camera experts, and they are housed on our website. And every single one that we have written monthly in the past 5 years are on there. So there's quite a bit in there for you. These are written by a variety of different authors and different topics. We have some that have been written by sites, which is different than our webinars and podcasts. But we also have our team that writes them, which is consistent of our analysts, our core project team, our senior advisors, and then our team members from JSS and ASU. And so some topics that I pulled for you on these in-view commentaries is we have had a couple on audits and compliance reviews and how they can strengthen your body-worn camera programs. We've also talked about digital evidence integration, the anticipated impact of police body-worn cameras on jurors' decision-making was a popular one. And we've also written one on implementing a body-worn camera program in a tribal community. So you can find all of those there. And I wanted to highlight our most recent in-view commentary, which focused on the Camden County, New Jersey Police Department and the steps that they took to help their program be more sustainable over time. All right, Monique, if you want to put up the poll question. So this poll question is, have you accessed the bodyworn camera TTA.com website or the BJA Toolkit website? If you haven't, I will walk you through how you can access that, but we just kind of want to see how everyone is doing on that. All right, so it looks like quite a bit of you have accessed either of those websites. It looks like 68%, and about 30% haven't. So hopefully after today, once I show you, you'll be able to go in and access it, and that'll be 100%. So just kind of a little background on our resources. We do have them all located on our website, everything we have done. And one good thing that we have on there is we have a resource catalog. And so our resource catalog it compiles everything that we have done for you into one document. And the way that we have it broken down is we have it divided by categories, which you'll see on the website. There are buttons of these categories that you can search through to filter what you're actually looking for. And so those categories are legal, policy, privacy, procurement and budgeting resources, stakeholders, technology, training, additional research resources, and we also include our quarterly newsletters in the resource catalog. And so if you want to go in and search the catalog by those categories, you can find every webinar, every in-view podcast resource in that area, as well as subject matter experts, agency sites that we think have done well in that area. And so that really helps you to kind of match up and maybe even set up a peer exchange with us with those peer agencies that we think would be good for that. And for the development of our resources, again, these are usually developed by our TTA leads, our analysts, our senior advisors, and then our core project team. We are always looking to develop new resources on topics that we have not explored before. So if you do have a topic that you're interested in and would like to see a resource or a webinar or podcast on this, please do let us know. You can let your TTA lead and your analysts know. If you don't have one, you can always reach out to us at bwctta@cna.org. And if we already have resources in that area that we think might be helpful to you, we will go ahead and compile those and send them to you before we develop a new resource. All right, so our newsletters, we have two versions of our newsletter. We have a weekly newsletter and a quarterly. So our weekly newsletter will be released to you every Friday. And in these weekly newsletters, we like to highlight any recent resources or any that may be relevant in the current time frame right now. Recent news articles highlighting body-worn cameras, and then any new releases of resources that we have just released or upcoming events to register. And then another thing that we do in our weekly newsletters is we have a little blog area that's our technology corner. And so the technology corner is written by various members of our TTA team, mostly our technology advisor, Elliot Harkavy. And just please let us know if you ever think of any areas in this technology corner that you would like to see us reach out to you about, or if you would like to see us develop a technology corner on that topic. For our quarterly newsletters, we release these 4 times a year, and they highlight similar things to the weekly newsletter. So it will highlight resources, news articles, events, and then more activity that happened in the last quarter with us. So if you want to make sure that you're actually getting both of those newsletters and then any resource that we disseminate, please sign up on our mailing list, which that image there shows you what it looks like on the website, but I'll show you how to find that here in a second. All right, our social media. I know we've been talking about it a little bit throughout the meeting this week, but you can use our Twitter handle right there, BWCTTA. You can use our hashtag BWCTTA to engage with us. And then for the national meeting, just put 2020 in front of that and we can keep engaging with you. And if you'd like to subscribe to our YouTube channel, you can go to that link right there. We do have all of our webinars on there, so if you prefer to use that instead of our website for webinars, you're more than welcome to do so. And to make it easy for joining our mailing list, if you would like to text BWC to 42828, you can go ahead and do that, and that will get the process started so that you don't have to do it through the website. All right, so I'm just going to kind of go through. This is our home page. We have a slider that has our policy review scorecard, and then any new things that we've put out is always up here, including our podcast series. If you scroll down, these 4 items are always updated, so you can always take a look at those. Those are the most recent things we've put out. And if you scroll down a little further, you can see our tweets on the bottom left, and then you can see how to email us. There's a contact form, and you can also request TTA straight from the website. I did not mean to click that. Okay. And then you can join our mailing list right here, which is the image that I had in the PowerPoint. So to find our team members that Carrie mentioned at the beginning of this session, you would just click on About Us, Our Team. Here's our team. You can scroll down and read about who we are and kind of what we can provide for you. If you would like to look at our TTA leads, you just hit the plus button and the TTA leads. And this has all of them in here with their pictures, their bios. And right here is their individual podcasts that I mentioned that we are compiling for also larger podcasts. So if you want to learn more about any of our TTA leads, I highly suggest listening to their individual podcast. So here's our resources. You just click on that. Here's the buttons that I talked about that are divided in the resource catalog. So if you want to search by legal, all you would have to do is click on the legal button and it will filter everything that we have on legal. So first I'll show you the toolkit. So if you click on the toolkit, it's going to take you here, and then you'll just click on this link to actually get to the toolkit. And you can find all of our resources plus a lot more on that toolkit. So it's a very valuable resource for you. If you specifically just want to look at our written resources, you would just click on the BWC Resources, and then you can find everything you need. There's, as you can see, there's a lot of pages. We have quite a bit of resources on there. To find the policy review process that Carrie mentioned, you can find our scorecard and our certification on this webpage, the body-worn camera policy review process. If you ever have any questions with it, just let us know. Just send us an email. For our in-view commentaries from body-worn camera experts that I mentioned, you would just click this right here on the side of your panel. You can also click all of this from the drop-down, but it's a little easier on the side. And we will always have our current in-view commentary at the very top, which is the one I mentioned on Camden County, New Jersey. And then if you scroll down, you'll see every in-view that we've posted by month, all the way back to the inception. Next, if you click on the quarterly newsletter tab, you can find every quarterly newsletter and just like a quick little overview of what we have in the newsletter. And then you just click access the bulletin and it will actually pull up the entire newsletter for you. For our resource catalog that I mentioned, you would just click on it right there and it'll come up. And this gives you an overview of what it is, what I kind of just explained. And then you would just click on the link here and it will pull up the entire document and you can search through it and find whatever you're needing. On the previous session with Dr. White, he mentioned the directories of outcomes. So you would just click here to find that. And these are the 3 directories that we currently have based on the outcomes of citizen complaints, use of force, and officer activity. We do have a couple more that are coming, so stay tuned for those. And then I wanted to show you our voices from the field. These are our spotlight reports, our in-view commentaries, anything that are specifically about a site. We put that here so that you can find if there's a site that's similar to you that maybe you want to reach out to, that maybe has went through a similar challenge or has learned something that you have that you would like to get in contact with. Now moving on to our webinars. So you would go up to training and technical assistance and you click on webinars. Again, it's divided by the same categorical buttons for you. And you can find our most recent one, just like the commentaries. The most recent webinar is up here for you. And then you can scroll through and find every webinar that we have. Our podcast. So you can click on podcast, and right here are buttons. There's 4 buttons that you can click on to subscribe to our 4 different channels that we have. So you can listen to this podcast through Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, and also Libsyn. So you can just subscribe here. If you don't want to subscribe, you can always just come to our website, but it is easier when you subscribe because you'll get notifications when we release a new podcast. And again, we have them divided by buttons. And then the Speakers Bureau that Carrie mentioned. So you would just click on Body Worn Camera Speakers Bureau. This gives you an idea of what it is, and you can either request it from here, from the request form, or if you click on the plus button, you can request it from there as well, and it takes you straight to the form. And then lastly, 2 other things. To request TTA, you can request it from here or from the home page like I already showed. And you can also ask a BWC expert a question here, and that goes directly to us so we can get that question answered for you. Carrie, if there's anything else on the website you'd like me to show, I'm happy to do that, but otherwise I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Bridget. Great overview of all the resources available. Monique, I think we have one more poll question for the team. Okay, so now that you've kind of heard us go on about all the different types of resources, and I hope you kind of took away from that basically chances are if you have a question in an area, we've probably over the last 5 years developed a resource on it. And if not, you know, we are always looking for new ideas and trying to respond to the field to develop new resources. And we certainly have subject matter experts that can talk to you about things related to body-worn cameras. And, you know, as we heard in one of our last sessions with Dr. Craig Uchida and Dr. Eileen Mom and Tom Woodmansey, that we, you know, stay up on the research as well. So I ask you all to respond to this and see if there's any, you know, topic that you'd like to learn more about. Very good, interesting responses. So 12% are interested in body-worn camera policy development. It's kind of spread around all these topics. 4% interested in body-worn camera testing and evaluation. 19% are working with vendors. Almost 30% on body-worn camera policy compliance. As Bridget noted, we have a good number of resources on this, as this has kind of been an emerging area in the field that agencies, now that they've had body-worn cameras for a while, are looking to figure out what they should do with those videos. How do they make sure the officers are using them appropriately, using their cameras appropriately, etc. 4% on crisis communications, 31% on training, 19% on body-worn camera technologies, and 38% on evaluating program effectiveness. Okay, so we have one comment on the chat about grant writing and grant management. So one of the things that the TTA team can help you with once you have your body-worn camera policy and implementation program is we do develop a couple resources to help you manage your grant, and we are a conduit to your grant advisors and to the Bureau of Justice Assistance for you. So we, as the TTA team, will talk to you probably about every other week as you start your program, and then moving that to about every other month once you've deployed your cameras to see how things are going. And so we're in constant contact with you and offering you help. And so even if we can't answer a question for you related to your grant management, you're certainly welcome to ask it of us. And if needed, we can help you get in touch with the right people at either BJA or the GMS management team, etc., to help you get your questions answered. All right, looking at the other questions. So we have a question about whether agencies can share their policies with each other and whether or not we can have sample policy language. So that's a great question. And yes, absolutely. A number of agencies, probably at the hundreds at this point, have gone through this process, and we think their policies are really excellent. They cover all the topics. They have probably hit 100% on the policy scorecard, including mandatory and optional items to cover, and just have developed these really strong policies. And whenever we come across an agency that's very good at that, what we do is we'll ask them, would you be okay sharing your policy? Some of them are, very happy to share it. They'll put it on their website and share it with everyone. Actually, the vast majority are happy to share. I've rarely come across an agency that said, they don't want to share. Sometimes they have to ask their chief, but pretty much always the answer is, yep, we'd be happy to share. And so with that, we've got a whole bunch of sample policies, and we've even divided it up based on the scorecard into sample policy language. So as you're going through the scorecard and the policy review process, if you hit one of the items, like maybe one of the mandatory items or one of the compulsory items, you might say, well, what do other agencies do about this? And what we can do is we can provide you sample policy language that says, you know, this is how one agency did it, this is how another agency did it. And what we try to do when we provide you that sample policy language is run the gamut of the types of responses you may see. So for example, if the question is, you know, do you allow officers to review body-worn camera footage prior to writing a report? We will give you sample policy language from an agency that does, sample policy language from an agency that doesn't, and sample policy language from an agency that's in between, where sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. In addition, our partners at Arizona State University every year do an analysis of all of the body-worn camera policies that were developed as part of the PIP program. And through this analysis, they've actually looked at which way and which stance each agency goes on the issues covered in the scorecard. So you can kind of see where your peers are at in terms of each item. You know, do they let agencies review? Do they not? You know, all of those items in the scorecard. So that's a really good resource as well to kind of help you as you develop your policies. We have another question on training procedures and if anyone has a standard form on it. So for training, usually body-worn camera training, you know, when you're working to deploy your body-worn cameras, is a combination of vendor supported training. So the vendor is usually going to come in and help your agency, you know, set up know what the IT requirements are, help your officers figure out how to use their cameras, etc. But we recommend your training not be limited to that. We also recommend that you expand your training to cover your policy so that your officers know how you expect them to use the cameras and tag them and all sorts of things that may be specific to how your department uses body-worn cameras and what you want them to do. To help you develop these training procedures, we actually have a couple templates that you can use. It's a PowerPoint of all the things that we recommend you cover when you do training for your for new officers on body-worn cameras. In addition, we had a session earlier today on emerging training practices with Dan Zender. And so we are finding that body-worn cameras are not only, you know, not only do you need to train on body-worn cameras, but they're becoming a very useful training tool. If you were unable to participate in that session, we have recorded it, and we'll make all these sessions available later. And of course, you know, those subject matter experts that you heard talk about training, such as Dan Zender and others, are available to you, you know, as you talk about your training procedures and as you want to develop them. So all of the training resources are through that link that Bridget showed when you go into the body-worn camera TTA website and then click on the training link. All right, we have a question about the BJA body-worn camera toolkit. So right now the toolkit is, the vast majority of the time it's up, but it is currently undergoing an upgrade to be hosted on the BJA website in a different way. And that will also improve its functionality. So it may be down for short, brief amounts of time. If you are looking for something on the toolkit and you find it down, please feel free to contact us. We have all the content, you know, stored as backup. The vast majority of the content is also reproduced on the TTA website, BWC And so certainly if you're looking for something, you know, please reach out to us. Do we have David Lewis on the line? I don't know if he wants to say anything else about the changes that they're making to the BJA toolkit.
Carrie, this is David Lewis. I don't have anything additional. We're just trying to make things more functional and be a little bit better for the users. It's just a little bit easier to use the content when it's hosted from our, you know, from the larger OCO agency. So just ask people to be patient and stand by, but I think they're going to have a much better product.
Great, thank you, David. Yeah, and we look forward to that. We've tried to make a couple upgrades to our TTA website as well, but one of the challenges both websites experience is just that there are so many resources developed now at this point in the program, right, 5 years in, that sometimes it's hard to search through all of them and have the most relevant and the most useful come up for you. So I think it sounds like some of the improvements for the BJA website are really going to help with that. And in the meantime, and certainly for the TTA resources, you know, it may seem daunting, the number that are up there. If you look at the resource catalog, that's also linked in the session agenda. There's just hundreds of resources. So don't feel like you have to understand all those resources or know everything that's there as a body-worn camera site. You know, really, we are here to help be the conduit to everything TTA related, either whether it's provided from BJA or whether it's provided and supported by the TTA team in coordination with BJA. So please use those links and those mechanisms that we've set up to ask for assistance. Even if you don't really know what you're asking for, you can just send a simple question like, we're coming up on our training and we'd love any advice you have on it, etc. So you don't have to be specific. We're always here and willing and would love to help you if we can. Bridget, am I missing any questions or anything else you wanted to cover for the group?
No, I just think kind of hitting on what you just said too, that, you know, if there's a topic that you are struggling with or would like information on, if you just let us know, then we can compile all of the resources for you. If you don't have time to look through it, or if you are not able to look through and find them in that topic area, we're happy to do that, and just let us know and we can get that done for you.
Thanks, Bridget.